Welcome into another edition of the Rundown, Week 7 of your CSAA football show. Hopefully your favorite, as there aren't a lot of options out there. Brandon Wirth, that's Jack Heckman. We are breaking down all things CSAA football for you here this week. And Jack, we had a lot of excitement last week, including, we'll recap what could have been the game of the year.
Yeah, that was definitely between Newaygo and Grant. That was a very intriguing game. And just sitting back and looking at the season, it seems like the season's flying by. We're already in week 7, and it's been an exciting season so far.
It has been a great season. We appreciate all the fan support. We got more shows upcoming, including, yes, we will be back outside. We're not just hiding in the indoor air conditioning forever, but we wanted to break it up and give you some visuals as well on the show. We'll talk about this past week in week 6 and the scores to report, as well as the standings update. We got a great interview with Kent City head coach Zach Gropp that you can check out, as well as week 7 preview, and we'll recount boys soccer and conference play as we will crown the conference champion from this year's tournament. But before we get started, big thanks goes out to Denny's Muffler and Brakes in Big Rapids on South State Street. You can find them for more information on how to get your car in tip-top shape, whether it's brakes, mufflers, as well as general auto repair and oil changes as well. You can find them on State Street as well. Also, big thanks goes out to Eagle Village. If you want a job that impacts the lives of youth with their mission, vision, and values, on their website, you can find out more information. Apply today, eaglevillage.org, where potential source, eaglevillage.org/careers. All right, Jack, let's break it down here. Scores to report. Big Rapids against Chip Hills. I mean, this one was certainly one we had intrigue with after Chip Hills, 3-2 going in, kind of on their high horse, hosting this game. But Coach Seltzer's crew, they have just proven that this is a dominant year for the Cardinals.
Yeah, 100%. They're doing what they've done all season, get the athletes into space and have them make plays, taking advantage of what is considered a weaker conference to their capabilities. And they have the ability to, win games and make potentially a playoff run. Their defense was dominant in this game, as it's been all season long. 0 points on the board for the Warriors, but 56 on that offense. This team was a team that scored 35 in the first quarter. The team came to play. It's just what they've done all season, and that's how Seltzer wants his boys to play.
Absolutely. The scoring on the first 7 drives, establishing dominance early, certainly for the Cardinals, including 2 interceptions on Hunter McGuire, one of the best players in the area. Reed City and Tri-County, this one certainly had a lot of offense. The defensive coordinators ripped their hairs out, while the offensive coordinators are living like kings after Friday night. 58-33, the final score. Reed City dominating bounce-back game on the ground, 620, including 270 from Andrew Kianis. But obviously, Tri-County had their way, scored 2 out of the first 3 drives overall in the game, had a little bit of that tempo going. They got that pass game going in the second half, but defensive woes, really, Reed City just kind of ran through in that last week.
Yeah, 100%. This is one of the most intriguing games going into last week and coming out of this week. It is probably one of the most intriguing scores on the scoreboard. But like you said, Reed City able to impose their will with the running game. And if you're the Vikings, you got to sit back, take a step back. Going against a wing T, one of the more common offenses you face in high school football, you're going to have to stop it eventually. And come playoff time, no matter what division you play, this goes for all the teams in the conference, you're eventually going to run into that wing T, and this Vikings team has to figure out how to stop the run ASAP.
Absolutely, especially for what Coach Butler talked about with us earlier on in the season about this is a playoff aspiration team that wants to move. Congratulations as well. Vaughn Veltman is heading to Alma. I just saw that this morning, so shout out to that young man, and he's a heck of a ball player, as Reed City found out at the quarterback position. The game of the year, M37. You had Grant and Newaygo, 2 teams that have been down and out over the last couple weeks. We knew this one could have fireworks, but literally buzzer-beating theatrics was not on the table, at least to my mind, going into this game, but we certainly were treated. I mean, Grant, talk about the resiliency. I mean, it really was a game that seemed to be put away. Newaygo, unfortunately, Lions fans said, I remember having this conversation back in week 2 against Central Montcalm, but it was just Grant's resilience, and especially Obanoff carried him on their shoulders, literally and figuratively, to get him the W.
Yeah, most definitely. 3 touchdowns, over 100 rushing yards for Obanoff. But just looking at this, Grant, this is the type of win that you're able to set up for next year. And how does this build momentum going into the rest of your schedule, where you're most likely not a playoff team? How do you get going into next season and build that momentum? This is a huge, gritty win. But if you're Newaygo, you got to take a step back as well. Look at your schedule. 3 losses by 1 score in all games that you very well could have won. You're a team that could easily be 3-3. A Central Montcalm game earlier in the year, Chip Hills, middle of the season, and now Grant. Those are all scores that easily could have gone Newaygo's way, but we've kind of seen that with the loss of Munger. It's going to be huge going forward. How does Newaygo get that win as an 0-6 team now? But this was the game of the year, and this is one of those games where if you're on the winning side, it's a huge momentum booster. If you're on the losing side, this really kills everything on the team.
Yeah, taking your wind out of your sail, especially. We'll talk about both these teams. We'll have to have an opponent that is other than each other next week and see how that will be obviously affected with the emotions of that football game. Kent City, 54-0 over White Cloud. Dominance from the Eagles. This was kind of what we may have expected, a little bit. But I mean, Kent City's crew, they got out and early. But the defense, especially Sammy Anderson, 2 pick six, that is almost the side of the football that has impressed me with that crew this year. Their defense has been unstoppable.
Yeah, 100%. It has been. And this defense has come to play every week. They're shutting opponents out. I believe they haven't allowed a single point in conference play, knock on wood. And if you're on the White Cloud side of things, you haven't scored a point in conference play. Very unfortunate. And the question for White Cloud is, will they win a game? It's going to be tough coming up. Maybe you have it this week versus Lakeview. Maybe you don't. But on the Kent City side of things, this is a team that offensively is making plays with the wing T, and they're getting their athletes, their running backs, hitting the gaps. They're getting outside, able to make long runs. But like you said, the defense really came to play this week against a much weaker White Cloud team. This is just what you got to do. Taking advantage of a schedule like they have. Big Rapids is doing the same thing. They're just able to win those conference games and showing why they can be the superior team in this conference.
Absolutely. We'll talk to Coach Gropp about the rivalry game, and especially with CSAA White Championship implications here in just a few moments. Speaking of Lakeview falling to Harbor Springs on a rare Saturday game, especially for Coach Lott, coaching staff players, still really kind of ironing out the regime. It's been really kind of a battle of bad luck this year overall, just considering overall health and just the outcomes of games. But obviously, they have a major opportunity this week, and we might talk about that as the game of the week potentially between those two teams. 0-6, 0-12 overall combined, but somebody's going to get a W this week, but we'll talk about that more. But overall, Harbor Springs has made a lot of improvements for a team that had 20-some plus odd straight losses in 3 years coming into the season. They've had some good strides forward, but for the Wildcats, scrap that one. You're looking at this week.
Yeah, 100%. Like you said, an odd Saturday game. What does that really? It's weird. You never really play a Saturday game. Most of the guys that have played high school football have never played a Saturday game, and now you have this extra day of practice, or maybe you take that Monday off and regroup going forward. But this was definitely just a weird overall week for Lakeview, and it's going to be big how they adjust this week versus White Cloud. This should be a pretty big game for the Wildcats, seeing how they can get out and running against White Cloud.
Absolutely. We'll preview that one here later on. In the last one, Central Montcalm stays undefeated in conference play with the win over Morley Stanwood, but scoreline a little bit. Morley Stanwood playing better, I think, than a lot of people realize. Central Montcalm got it going on the ground game, but through the air, the Hornets struggled, and that Mohawk defense getting some takeaways was really huge. So Morley's got a lot of momentum going into this week, even though with the loss in the column, Central Montcalm still gets to win, but I think both teams agreed that game shouldn't have been as close as it was.
Yeah, 100%. And if you're looking at it from Central Montcalm's aspect, it was a shaky week offensively. You mentioned it, the run game was kind of there. You're almost falling for the trap game, but able to get out with the win. 3 turnovers, 3 interceptions. It's something that you got to look back at Central Montcalm. Your identity is really spreading the ball out, getting the ball to all your playmakers, running the ball, and just kind of playing a pro-style offense. Morley Stanwood comes into this game, 3 interceptions, doesn't do anything with it. Only 8 points. That's definitely something Morley Stanwood's got to come back and look at, say, hey, this game should have been a lot closer than it was.
Absolutely, yeah. Positives and the takeaways obviously will be something that they're going to try to build upon. Can you score off of those extra possessions? We'll have to wait and see. Before we get to the interview, let's take a look at our standings. We'll start in the CSAA Red. You see Big Rapids right now. They have clinched a share. They beat Grant this week, which numbers say they should. They will be outright conference champions. Reed City and Tri-County there in second and third. But the intrigue, you look at the 3 and 4 spot, Tri-County and Chip Hills. This is a decider for who gets the bronze medal in this conference. So that's going to be a really fun game in Howard City this week. But notable numbers across the board. Nuevo really hasn't had much difference in offense. It's just been the defense in those crucial moments. Fourth quarter, second half has fell off a little bit. And for Tri-County, they've put up a lot of points. Their defense has given up a lot of points. But Big Rapids, you see the 45, the 52 that the offense is putting up. But how about the 5.5? That defensive crew has played a whale of a season so far.
This is I think it's one of the biggest point differentials they've had in school history. This is a team, I mentioned it earlier, they're coming to play every single week. They want to play. That's a huge difference. There's guys on this team who want to play. They want to play today, and they want to play play at that next level, and they're coming out and they're just showing it every single day on the ball field.
They absolutely are, and the depth pieces have been just as impressive, seeing those guys play fifth quarter kids as well as guys in the second half. But it'll be very interesting to see, and obviously for Grant, that win against Newaygo was huge in terms of the standings, and looking at Chip Hills potentially as somebody they could flip over if the numbers go in their favor. We'll have to wait and see this week. Looking at the CSAA White, you see the two teams we're looking at. It's a championship Friday coming up this week between those two top teams, and the numbers are very similar. Central Montcalm, their only blemish to a ranked Elton Pigeon Bayport Laker team that is right now one of the best teams in that D7 division. But overall, the numbers very similar, offensive and defensive points per game. And for Moy Stanwood as well, I mean, you look at the offensive and defensive points per game, they're actually averaging more offensive points scored despite the 2-4 overall record. But I think that's really impressive. You see those bottom two teams, yeah, the numbers are crooked, but you know what? They're both crooked for both teams. Somebody's got to win this week.
Yeah, most definitely. It's just a matter of who breaks first, who doesn't bend. If you're bending, you're going to win this game. If you're breaking, it's going to be a tough game for you. These are two teams where it's probably the second most intriguing game of the week. Obviously, that Kent City Central Montcalm game, the more intriguing one for the conference championship. But these are two teams all season long kind of just had the ability to maybe go out and put points on the board, just not able to capitalize. More of a Lakeview thing than a White Cloud thing. But this Wildcat team overall has played well enough to put points on the board and put themselves in situations where they could win the game after that first quarter. It's just putting together those last three quarters, and it's going to be tough going forward, but they have two favorable matchups coming up. It'll be intriguing to see how those go.
It will be very intriguing indeed. We got some great games on deck this week. We'll preview that here in just a moment. But first, I had a chance to sit down with head coach of Kent City football, Zach Gropp, on their matchup this week and the start to the season for the Eagles. Now joining us here on the Rundown, we are joined by head varsity football coach at Kent City High School, Zach Gropp. Coach, thank you so much for stopping by and joining us here on the program.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Obviously, I know it's been a really great start for your team this year, unblemished through 6 games. Just talk about the work that you guys have done in the offseason and so far paying dividends through the first 6 games here in 2025.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like we had a really good offseason in the summer. We had a lot of good turnouts. Very senior driven. We have 16 seniors on the team. And you know, we had really good numbers, and then just the preparation each week has been awesome. You know, we have a goal of going 1-0 every week. We try not to look ahead what's going on. So I feel like that's been a really good motto for us throughout the year. Just focusing on the week at hand and keep things rolling.
For sure. Obviously, big game this week with Central Montcalm. We'll touch on that in a little bit. But I noticed, especially with the schedule, playing a lot of tough teams this year, especially on the road. I mean, we're really talking about the term barometer game brought up for you and your team with Godwin Heights and Hart traveling to those two teams. Just talk about, from your perspective, scheduling those teams and looking at the playoffs maybe as an implicator for that.
Yeah, I feel like it's always good to schedule tough teams, especially non-conference, to get you prepared for, you know, obviously the postseason. But, you know, going to Godwin Heights week 2, and we knew there was going to be a tough game going into it, and our kids responded and played a good game. And then, you know, traveling to Hart, you know, they're obviously on the bubble being a playoff team, so had some turnovers in that game, but we found some adversity to overcome that. And then now getting into our tougher part of the schedule with Central Montcalm and Tri-County coming up, you know, it's going to be a good test for us.
100%. Obviously, 2 big games ahead, and you've really gotten to this point with a lot of those individual players that have really carried you. You know, when it's Sammy Anderson, Andre Mead, as well as Logan Thompson, to name a few. But just talk about what you see from this year's group of athletes compared to even last year's team, as far as where they have progressed and the identity of your football team really taking shape.
Yeah, I think it's great having a lot of our returners coming back this year. Just another year under their belt, you know, with Logan being second year, you know, fullback there, and Sammy stepping in at corner, took over for a really good senior for us last year at cornerback and stepping up there. And Andre, year 2 going into, you know, being the quarterback, signal caller, and a leader of our defense. So just really really good experience, and I feel like we're really gelling each week, and you know, it's just fun to see our guys communicate and continue the preparation every week and continue this on.
Absolutely. Big game week, conference championship game week with you guys going to Central Montcalm. What's been the message in practice, the focal points going in, and what do you see on the Hornets as far as their game film, some of their athletes that might cause some challenges, but also have some opportunities for you this Friday?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we're pretty motivated. Given last year they got us twice. Conference they won the conference last year and then beat us in the playoffs. So we want to take that next step and go back to winning the conference this year. And again, going back to that 1-0 every week. And that's been the focus and just really making sure that we eliminate mistakes, make sure that we have ball control. They're very solid. They like to do a lot of motions and get their athletes out in space. They're running backs back from last year. He's a tough runner, downhill guy, and then they have a slot receiver that can beat you with speed. So big challenge for us defensively. I know that we've been doing really well defensively, but I've been challenging our guys that hey, this is the game to really prove it. So. And then defensively, they fly around and make plays. So we got to get ready and we got to make sure that we have our angles correct and maybe put some of our different formations out there to try to get an advantage and looking forward to the game.
For sure. And I know the fans are too. And a lot of them have been behind you and your team already through the first 6 weeks. And tough 3 weeks ahead. Obviously, the Central Montcalm game this week. You guys will play against Tri-County as well as you'll finish out with Grant going into the playoffs. Assuming everything goes as planned for you, I'm sure looking at the postseason. But just talk about for where this team is, especially with the community behind it, looking to make a postseason run, now ranked in some D6 polls. I mean, just how does that make you feel as a coach as well as seeing the players and the community behind it all?
Yeah, I think that we've started to take that next step as a program. I know that we talk about elevating our program every year and what we can do to continue on our success. We've had success in years past with making the playoffs, but what do we got to do to continue that? And our parents are awesome. They do team dinners for us before every game, and I just hear a lot of good talk in the community, and just walking the hallways and teachers and everybody else just excited for our football team. So it's been a really cool experience, and our guys are enjoying it, and it's just a really fun group of guys, and just continuing on with our every week.
Last question for you, Coach. I know this is a simple question with a complex answer, but I know the fans are wondering. I know many people now that are starting to hear about your football team, especially with the 6-0 start. What are the goals for this team this year, and how far do you believe this team can go?
Yeah, honestly, start the communication throughout the summer and meeting with our seniors. They want to take that next step. They want to win a district championship, something we haven't done here, and so that's been a goal. And we just really been talking about that process and how to do that. And that's going 1-0. If you go 1-0 each week, you're going to be able to make the playoffs. And then obviously you go 1-0 in the first round of playoffs, you'll make that district championship. So we've got behind that, and hopefully we can continue to do that and be successful on both sides.
Absolutely. Well, Coach Gropp, thank you so much for joining us here on the interview, and good luck to you and your Eagles in a big game this week.
Absolutely. Thanks, Brandon. Thanks for having me.
Big thanks to Coach Gropp for joining us on the show. Good luck to not only the Eagles, the Hornets, as well as all the conference teams this week. We wish them the best of luck. We wish they all 11 could win, but of course that doesn't happen in football. Unfortunately, some teams have to lose, but it's going to be a great week. We'll preview those games. But first, big thanks goes out to some of our other sponsors. If you're looking for a hat like this, if anybody noticed, we have rundown hats now. BigDealsBR.com with a partnership with Rivals MI, and you can get these limited edition rundown hats. I believe there's t-shirts that will be on the store soon. Very, very exciting stuff. You can check out rivalsmi.com for more information there. And big thanks goes out to Bezos Digital. If you want your business to stand out in what is a really crowded digital forest, help with the people of DezosDigital.com that can help your business thrive in today's competitive market, DezosDigital.com. Let's take a look at the matchups here this week, Jack. The top game on our sheet, the top of everybody's list as far as interest this week, Kent City at Central Montcalm. And I think this is almost literally as perfect as can be. You have the maybe slightly favored Kent City team, just considering the results, the margins that we've seen. So now they're going to have to go to Stanton. It brings even more intrigue. You got a really good offense on one side. You have a very stellar defense on the other side. I think for Central Montcalm, can they correct the turnover problem this week will be the big thing against that Kent City defense, and especially for Kent City, can they keep the run game going?
100%. It's going to be tough, and this is a schedule maker's dream. Last conference game of the season for the conference, but like you said, that Kent City defense, how stellar can they play against the Central Montcalm offense? Can Central Montcalm get the passing game going? I think is the biggest question going into this week. We mentioned it earlier, the 3 interceptions. How do you manage to get the ball out into space, give it to your playmakers, get Jamison Johns going? Can Zane Cooper pass that rock around? It's going to be tough for this Hornets team to do it against this stellar Kent City defense, but I think they have the ability to go out and put up a good amount of points to put themselves in a possibility to win this game.
Absolutely. It'll be interesting to see how ball control really goes into this game. Time of possession is going to be a key. Chip Hills at Tri-County. This game has some intrigue, obviously battling for the third place spot in the conference. I think when you look for Tri-County, this is a pride week. This is a get your get back week. You're at home. You got 2 big games after this with Kent City and Ludington. This really feels like a winnable game for you and your crew. But Coach Pelong's crew, obviously, they had a lot of hype going in the Big Rapids week. Got deflated a little bit. This is a chance for them to get a statement road victory, considering the Vikings were a little bit banged up from that Reed City week still. So it's going to be very interesting. Chip Hills, can they make those big plays with Clay Farrell, with Hunter McGuire? Can they make those big plays? And I think for Tri-County, can they get Jaden Button really, really going? He was really held in check against Reed City last week. Can he bounce back this week?
Yeah, 100%. This is one of those games where it's going into the conference slate at the beginning of the season. You look at this last match of the season, this feels like almost a guaranteed win for Tri-County. This Chip Hills team has flipped the script and played really well. Obviously, this past week, something you got to just move forward from. But this is one of those games where it's like Vaughn Veltman, Hunter McGuire, these are 2 stellar quarterbacks who can come to play this week, 100%.
It's going to be really fun to see those guys let it fly all majority of the evening. Reed City at Newaygo. Really, for Coach Schenkel's crew, you got over Tri-County. You got your bounce back. We saw week 1 to week 2, the bounce back. Now week 5 to week 6, the bounce back. So it's really good to see them. For Newaygo, I mean, you're playing for pride in front of your home fans. I believe it's homecoming for them. So they're going to have a little extra juice from the locker room. But for both teams, I think it's going to be crucial. Get to your game plan. Continue to possess the ball. I think the possession is going to be the one that wins this game.
Yeah, 100%. This is a game where it's like Reed City, come out, run the ball, do your thing. Newaygo, how do you play for pride? How do you get that? How do you stop Reed City? This is going to be a big game for both these teams going forward into the end of the season.
Absolutely. Reed City, I'm sure, is thinking, hey, can we get on early? Can we get second guys in there? That'll be the question mark for Newaygo. Can they stop that T in any way, shape, or form? Then, obviously, we have undefeated Big Rapids going to Grant. Grant going to play this game. There was obviously a little bit of concern considering they've been banged up a lot of this portion of the year. Seems like they are in good health, especially in good spirits after last week. So they're going to battle the Cardinals at home, and I think it's really kind of rinse and repeat for Big Rapids. Can you get to that offensive, same thing you did last week against Chip Hills? Can you continue to go out, execute, get points on the board, continue to work on some things? And for Grant, it's really just, can you get anything going? And I think it's got to be through Newton that you have to make those big plays.
Yeah, 100%. Only 5 completions last week, had a rushing touchdown. Newton did. But this is one of those games. Big Rapids looking forward on the schedule. Coopersville next week. This is one of those games. It's a tune-up for that big game. Got to come out, do what they've done all conference season long, get those points early, out in front of the lead, just carry away with this football game.
Absolutely. And it's curious to see if Coach Seltzer's got anything in his back pocket that he wants to use or work on going into the Coopersville week, but we'll have to wait and see. Moy Stanwood at Boyne City. For Coach Chapman's crew, obviously not the outcome they wanted. Overall, defense was very impressive. They're going to have to be against a really big Boyne City team that wants to run the football. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they go up and play against the Ramblers on the road.
This is one of those intriguing matchups where it's as a Boyne City team, around this area, you're not really all that familiar with them from a Morley Stanwood aspect of things. But we talked about it. Morley Stanwood able to get the turnovers. How can they get those turnovers this week? That's going to be a big thing going forward.
They're going to have to force turnovers against that Rambler offense. As Reed City fans know, that's a really good football team and a good program up north. Finally, the big game of the week. No, I'm just kidding. It's the second biggest game of the week. Somebody is not going to be defeated after this week. And that's the most important part. Regardless of how many mistakes have been made during the season, and we could almost guarantee both teams are going to make mistakes this week. The biggest, both sides, regardless of skill or position, who converts on those mistakes, who makes the opponent pay. Simple as that, cliche as it is, that's what wins this game. Who takes advantage of the mistakes of the other team and turns them into points.
Yeah, 100%. Bend, don't break, I think, is the biggest thing going forward into this game. You talked about it. This is second most biggest matchup of the week. I would say just someone's got to get a win this week. That's plain and simple.
It's plain and simple. Somebody's going to leave White Cloud with a win. What team will it be? The team on the road, or will it be the home team? We'll have to wait and see. So those are our week matchups for the week. Before we let you on the way, we obviously will get you football broadcast information as well. Y102 for Reed City at Newaygo, 6:30 p.m. start time, 102.3 FM, WYBR.com. Myself, Mark Holcomb. You can catch the Big Rapids at Grant games, same time, over on 100.9 WWBR.com with JT Scarpelli, as well as Jason Kostecki. Jack will be joining us with studio updates as well, which we're going to need some this week with all the other great games around the conference. We'll finish out with some CSAA boys soccer. The season, as far as the CSAA season, has concluded, and the Grant Tigers, despite finishing second overall in the regular season standings, Kent City with the regular season crown, they get the tournament victory over Big Rapids, who was the 5 seed overall in the rankings from that week. I mean, you got to give Grant a lot of credit. I mean, they won it in PKs. It was a gritty win, but I think it goes to show Big Rapids, really what Coach Thomas did was really impressive, just to see that the guys were able to get to that runner-up spot despite losing a coach over through the season. Tri-County Newaygo played really well. Kent City played as good as they could have played, just came one game short to getting to Kent City for that title game. But overall, pretty great season in CSAA boys soccer, and we're excited to see how these teams do in district play.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm going to highlight Big Rapids. Coach Thomas done an elite job with this program coming in mid-season, just able to get to that conference championship, and that's a huge thing going forward for this Cardinal soccer team.
Yeah, it's going to be very exciting indeed, and a lot of these teams, getting some NPR elevation for how good this conference was, so they're going to have some seeding going into that, and we'll have more information as well, BigRapidsDailyNews.com, regarding those things. That's going to conclude our episode here of The Rundown. Be sure to subscribe, and you can also tune in for Friday Night Recap on Saturday at 107.7 FM at 3:30 p.m. We'll break down all the scores, what that means for football, and more, as well as we'll get into more playoff projections starting next week. I know people are already looking ahead, but we got to get through this conference week, and we will break down the nitty-gritty. We're going to get nerdy next week. Be aware, be square, be here. That will do it for us here on The Rundown. We'll see you later, everybody.